All right, we're back. It's Rock Forever. We got a very special guest. You know him as the lead singer, the songwriter. He is a solo artist and, of course, the front man for the long-standing group KROKUS. Please welcome Mark Storace.
Hi, Jay. Hi, everybody.
Good to see you, Mark, all the way from Oberlin, Switzerland. We love it. What a beautiful country. I've been there.
It is
a great place to visit. And I know it's
so's the USA.
Yeah, of course. We love it. We love it. I'm here in LA, so weather's always good.
Oh, cool.
And I know you've recorded here. You've recorded up in Vancouver, some great studios. But let's talk about the new album. You know, we're loving the new album. Your big solo album here for 2022, Live and Let Live.
Live and Let Live.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, with the pandemic, it was hard to go out and complete the KROKUS farewell tour, and you're sitting around thinking, God, I gotta keep busy. I gotta make some music. So tell us about how this album came together. Were there co-writers? Obviously, there was other musicians you brought in to flesh it out. How did the album come together?
Yeah, well, you know, I looked through my archives, and I've got a drawer full of lyrics which piled up, you know, and during the pandemic and the lockdown, I thought, well, I better get busy doing something, otherwise boredom is going to kill me. So I came across, first of all, some old stuff demos, which I had since 22 years or so. And amongst those was Live and Let Live, which I wrote all those songs with Charlie Preissel. He's also from this area, Northwest Basel, Northwest Switzerland. And we had a good time doing that. And then came the big KROKUS reunion, and I got busy there. And, you know, so I couldn't concentrate on doing an album, didn't have time, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I started with those songs. And then in the meantime, there was this guy from Newcastle in England. His name's Adrian Fisher. And he had sent me some stuff, and I was looking through it and picked up some nice melodic backgrounds, you know, and they inspired me for lyrics and vocal melodies and so on. And previously, during the KROKUS 2019 Adios Farewell Tour, I had always also done this thing for Swiss television called Sing Mein Song. And I met these two guys who produced it and took care of all the musical side. They have a studio called Power Play, and the drummer's called Massimo, and the guitar player's Cyril. And at the end of this production in, you know, out on the Atlantic, on this nice sunny island, they said, so you're doing the farewell tour with KROKUS. It's about time you thought about doing a solo album. You've never done a solo album. Yeah. So I thought about that and continued the farewell tour. Then came the pandemic, picked Charlie's stuff. I worked with Adrian Fisher. And then I contacted Cyril and Massimo. And I said, you know, you told me you'd be interested to jam out some stuff. Maybe we can write a few songs. So we got together in their studio, Power Play. And we came out with 5, you know, quite good stuff, I thought. And we made demos, and we put the whole lot together. There was about 30 songs to choose from, which is always great. But then you have the pain of the choice, you know. You have to choose. And I wanted to have an album that didn't sound all the same from A to Z with the same kind of energy. I wanted to have different energies there. I wanted to have the fast, kick-ass rock songs, as well as singers love ballads. So I said, well, I'm a singer, so I'll have two ballads. And then there's also a blues. I delve into my bluesy side, and it was really nice working with these guys in the studio because they knew a lot of session musicians. They are session musicians themselves. And since it was lockdown, there was no way I was going to start working with, creating a rock band and starting working with them, auditions and all. It's too complicated. I took the easy way with these fantastic musicians. They could play anything and they learn stuff so fast. So it was great. And they were inspired and creative, and so was I. And the studio was great. We recorded everything old school, with the thick tapes, the old Studer recording machines, the Swiss ones. And they've got all this stuff in that studio, and with this huge Neve desk going into Pro Tools in the end, of course, the modern stuff. And we did it. It reminded me of when we were recording the Headhunter album in Florida in BJ Studios with KROKUS, 1982, 83. Because the whole band set up in the huge room. I mean, this huge studio room, which is like big enough to put an orchestra and a band. And they set up in there. They put all the amplification, or not the amplification, all the speakers out in Studio B and recorded from the desk on Studio B. And so there was this nice separation, nothing like, bleeding into microphones, no sounds which shouldn't be there. And I was behind the glass like the fish, singing all my stuff and seeing the band, with Massimo, the Schlagzeuger, the drummer, with his back towards me, and we were all connected, obviously, with headphones. So we jammed this stuff. We went for a live thing. We recorded every basic track like we were doing a concert live, which was exactly what we did with the Headhunter album. That's why that album kicks ass. and it was such a sensational thing for me, like each time I kept switching and thinking, wow, hey, this is my solo album, my first solo album. Well, my official first solo album, because I had done another one called Blue way back in the end of the 80s. After I left KROKUS in 88, I had started working on a solo album. And yeah, but that's another story. So yeah, that was the making of, and here we are, Live and Let Live, solo album, which people have been receiving with open hearts, and I've had, I'm humbled by all the compliments I've been receiving, and we're all proud. The whole band that recorded this with me, they're also very proud. I'm proud of them, and it's great. It was a great experience, and so now I have a new visiting card. Instead of just the singer of KROKUS, I'm also the singer of my Storace band. So which is great because I've always liked to work and work and work, and that's what keeps my voice in top form. It's because during all the breaks I've had over all these years with KROKUS, I've always done other projects. I sang with other bands and did this, that, and the other, including at the beginning of lockdown, some duets with my darling daughter, Juliana. So here we are today.
Yeah, well, we love your voice, and obviously with the solo album, it gives you an opportunity to try different flavors that might not be right for Crocus. So we hear more of your range, and like you say, some beautiful love ballads, some rockers, all of that, you know. And I know coming up, you idolized those rock singers that had that soulful side, you know, the Paul
Okay.
Rogers and Robert Plant and people
Oh,
like
Paul
that.
Rogers. Hmm.
Yeah. Talk about, you know, growing up and fall in love with rock and roll. You know, who were some of your favorite heroes, and, you know, what did you learn from them that brought that flavor to your voice?
Well, you know, I grew up in a musical family 5 doors away from this bar with a Wurlitzer in there full of rock and roll records from Chuck Berry coming on to Elvis, the Beatles, and going on to the early hard rock bands. And so I used to listen to this music when I was still too young to enter the place, because it was they sold alcohol and cigarettes, and these teenagers used to fill up the jukebox and dance and drink beer and whatever, smooching in the corner, and we weren't allowed in. So we sat across the road on these steps of a neighbor called Mr. Hall, and I still remember him. It was like 3 or 4 steps, and it was the back door, so we didn't bother him. And we listened to all this music while we had our little scene going, you know, the neighborhood kids. And across the road, because this was like on a crossroad, across the road from the bar, there was the church. And that's where I used to sing as an altar boy, sing like mostly Christmas carols for Christmas. And I was really into it. And my dad sang in that church as a tenor. So there was all this early influences, and I had already had my little performances, you know, in the back up by the church organ, you know, not really standing front of stage, but still, you know, it's like the excitement and the nervousness before doing it and everything. It happened very, very early with me, thanks to that. And yeah, my mother and eldest sister, they come from the classical side. They both played professional piano, and my sister Edith accompanied ballet and stuff like that, you know. But I went the rebellion. I took the rebellious side with rock and roll, and then wanted to leave the island after having sang with 3 bands in Malta for how long? I started at 14 and I left when I was 19 and a half, you know, so I had this long run of entertaining people, being the front man and so on, and doing all this pop stuff. And that got me trained, and it got, you know, it gave me a certain kind of character already. But I wanted to do the real thing. And so I went to London, because London was for me the place to go, because in Malta, being a ex-Commonwealth place, you know, in those days, everybody speaks English in Malta, you know, down this little sunny island in the Mediterranean. And so, yeah, I flew to London, and unfortunately, it was at the time when everything was closing down. The Beatles were splitting up. Hendrix had died, and Janis Joplin had died. Mark Bolan drove into a tree and died, and Lynyrd Skynyrd. And it was a sad time. Whilst Vietnam was still happening, and then came Bangladesh and George Harrison and Ravi Shankar and all that stuff. And suddenly I met this beautiful Swiss girl, and you know, went out for a coffee, and found out she knows these musicians and a manager in Switzerland. And I thought, well, it's time for me to either leave London or go back to Malta, or, so I'll stop in Switzerland on the way and check things out. And here I still am, with many breaks, of course. But so I was influenced by, the typical Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, The Who. That's who I wanted to follow. They were my idols. And later on, I was walking through Carnaby Street, and there was this music coming out of the boxes, and I went and said, "Who's paying, please?" And he said, "It's Yes." I said, "Who the hell is Yes?" He said, "It's a progressive music, progressive rock band." I said, "Okay, can I have a copy?" And it was Fragile, and that got me hooked. And so I went to Switzerland with this under my arm, so to speak. And then I got into Genesis and stuff like that. And then I joined T, my first professional band, that actually took me places for the first time. We were like pioneers, and we were the only Swiss progressive rock band that ever got that far in those days. We were touring all the way up to Germany, up to Hamburg, and all the way over. We went to and toured Great Britain with Ginger Baker from the Cream, with his band, the Baker Gurvitz Army. And we did Wales and Scotland and the whole of England and stuff like that. Nice memories and a lot of hard work, but I was doing what I wanted to do. So I was like, yeah, full of beans. And then came like a time like when, after 7 years doing T, I returned to London because T was like reached a dead end. And after I did Easy Money for a couple of years, I got this phone call from Chris, the founder member of KROKUS, because we had met because we had taken KROKUS on the road with us. I mean, T was on the last tour, and we took KROKUS on the road with us. And I met the guys, and Tommy Kiefer, they're a fantastic guitar player. He impressed me totally. And so we parted and stuff, and they still had my number. And Chris said, "Would you like to join KROKUS? Because our singer left us. He was doing a solo career." I said, "Well, I've got my band here. I've got, my life is in London now and stuff, but I'll come over for a weekend. Let's try it out." And that weekend worked really well. We jammed through old rock classics, by the bands I mentioned, the old Zeppelin, The Who, Deep Purple. And we found out we're on like the same wavelength, and so that was it. I kind of went back to London, packed my stuff. I stopped working with Easy Money, even though we were very close to a record contract with Chrysalis and a tour in the USA with Genesis opening up. But, sometimes you can't have everything, That's one line in one of my songs. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And the rest is history, KROKUS.
Yes, yes, of course. Well, so many great songs on the new album, High on Love and Broken Wings. And you say, you started with about 30. How did you make your final decision? How did you hone it down? Was it trying to have a balance between the different styles, or how did you get the final cut?
Well, luckily, I already had a kind of line which I wanted to take. And so it was like a process of elimination. We were jamming a lot of stuff and looking through. And then I kind of, shared the demos with, like, was my manager. There was my family here, because I listen to what they say, especially my wife. And she's very savvy with music. She can't sing or play any instrument, but she's like got good ears and good taste. And yeah, so there's a couple of other people that I trust, and of course the band, you know. So I was taking in the feedback and analyzing, and luckily there was time, because you know, you work on a lot of stuff, and time goes by, and then you have time to like come home and spread the stuff out on the desk and start, you know, yeah, so I got to throw this out, and next day go, no, I got to take it back in. You know, it's like, I'm glad I was helped a little bit by my people around me. And as I said, I knew I wanted to have a variety of songs and moods, yet stay the same. You know, it's me throughout, you know. But and the style, the way it was recorded was also special. I didn't want to have, didn't want to copy KROKUS. I didn't want to be like a cover version of KROKUS. I just, I am me. I've had my life. I have a whole life behind me, which before it started before KROKUS, you know. So that a lot of that is in there, especially in the lyrics. The lyrics are, I find, and I was told, pretty deep. You know, it's not just hey, hey, rock and roll and baby, I love you, and all that kind of stuff. Because it's my solo album. I thought I have the freedom to kind of do what I like, but don't go too far away from my fans, because I know what my fans like as well. And so I have fans coming from the KROKUS sector mostly, and from the tea sector, and there's some Easy Money, and all over the place. There are all these fans of other bands that I thought I would satisfy by that choice, you know. So we got there. I'm glad I got there.
Yeah.
And there it is. And there's leftovers, you know, songs which are not on this album that might end up on the second one. If I do a second one, it depends on so many things, you know, especially first of all, my health, you know.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, you've had a time to rest up and think it
Oh
through.
yeah.
And yeah, it's just like Rod Stewart was when he was in the Faces, you know, when he went solo, he could try different stuff that might not work with the Faces, you know, and then
Oh yeah.
he had a fleshed out career that was so diverse. But yeah, no, you've
Yeah.
definitely achieved
Yeah.
greatness here. We encourage everyone to go out and get the album Live and Let
Thank
Live.
you.
Yeah, the Mighty Mark Storace and the Storace Band. We congratulate you. Fantastic work.